He buried the man at sundown. No name, no witnesses, just a shallow grave cut into hard desert dirt. And by nightfall someone knocked on his door and said the man wasn't supposed to die. Elias Whitaker hadn't heard a human voice in 3 weeks. Yet there she stood on his porch, dressed black as fresh ash, eyes steady like she'd ridden all night without blinking. And before he could speak, she stepped past him like she already belonged there. "You buried him," she said, not a question, her voice low and certain, and Elias felt something cold settle under his ribs because she didn't ask where the grave was. She didn't ask what happened. She just knew. He reached for his rifle out of habit, not fear, but she didn't even glance at it. Just walked to the table and placed a silver necklace down, the same one he'd pulled from the dead man's hand before the burial, the same one he hadn't told a soul about. "You took this," she said, and Elias swallowed dust and silence because there was no lie left to tell. Outside, the wind dragged across the land, carrying that hollow whistle that comes after something wrong settles in, and for the first time since he buried the man, the ground didn't feel quiet anymore. "He wasn't meant to die like that," she continued, finally looking at him, and her eyes weren't grieving, they were measuring. Elias shook his head slow. "He was already dead when I found him." She stepped closer. "No," she said, voice sharper now. "He was already replaced." The word hung there like a gun not yet fired. Elias felt it then, that small fracture in memory, the way the wound on the man's chest hadn't bled right, the way his hands looked too clean for a dying man in the desert, the way the necklace had been clutched too carefully, like it was planted. "You buried the wrong man," she whispered, and now even the walls of the cabin seemed to lean in to listen. Elias glanced toward the door, toward the dark stretching out past his land, because suddenly the grave he dug wasn't behind him anymore. It was waiting ahead. "Then where is your father?" he asked, and for the first time, her expression shifted, just enough to let something human slip through. She picked up the necklace, closed her hand around it, and said quietly, "Alive, because someone needed you to bury alive first." The wind stopped. The silence pressed in, and somewhere out beyond the ridge, a horse began to run.